You're listening to Chapter by Chapter Classics, the short-form classic literature podcast, where each episode walks you through a few chapters of a great book. Previously in Pride and Prejudice, Elizabeth visited Charlotte and Mr. Collins at Hunsford, endured Lady Catherine's overbearing manners, and shocked everyone, including herself, by fiercely rejecting Darcy's first disastrously worded proposal. In this episode, we're covering chapters 35 through 42, where Darcy's letter turns Elizabeth's ideas upside down, and Lydia's choices begin to put the Bennet family's reputation on the line.
Welcome back to the deep dive. You know that moment in a story when the ground just shifts under your feet, and everything you thought you knew, everything, about a central conflict turns out to be wrong.
That is exactly where we are today.
We are diving into those incredibly tense chapters right after Mr. Darcy's proposal to Elizabeth Bennet.
Right,
the one that was, deeply insulting, but also shockingly emotional.
It's the ultimate literary plot twist, isn't it? Elizabeth has just completely demolished him. She's accused him of ruining Wickham, of destroying her sister Jane's happiness.
All very serious charges.
Absolutely. But the real mission of this deep dive isn't just to recap that fight. It's to synthesize the contents of the document that changes everything.
The letter.
Darcy's long defensive letter. And it forces Elizabeth and, us as readers to just completely shift our entire perception of his character and maybe more importantly, her own.
Right. That letter, which he just hands to her with almost no ceremony, it's like a classified file. It contradicts every headline you've been reading. So let's really unpack why this one piece of paper is so foundational to the entire story.
Well, Darcy is very clear about his purpose right from the start. He says he isn't writing to apologize or, renew what she called his disgusting sentiments.
He's not trying to win her over again.
No, not at all. This is purely about defending his honor against those two big accusations she threw at him. And he starts with the most damning one, his supposed cruelty toward Wickham.
Okay, so Elizabeth's version of the story painted Wickham as this really sympathetic victim, right? A poor boy denied his birthright by a proud, cruel guardian. What's the letter actually say?
Darcy confirms that his father, the late Mr. Darcy, absolutely adored Wickham. He fully intended to set him up for life with a valuable living in the church.
And just for context, living wasn't just a job.
No, it was a guaranteed income for life from a parish. It was basically a golden ticket to a comfortable, respectable existence.
A social safety net, totally guaranteed. So what on earth did Wickham do with that opportunity?
He turned it down flat. He rejected the entire clerical profession.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Instead, he demanded the cash value of that position. We're talking several £1,000s, which is a huge sum of money, and Darcy gave it to him.
And let me guess, he invested it wisely.
He squandered it almost immediately. And then, and this is the crucial part, 5 years later, he came back asking for more.
So Wickham's whole story about being denied a respectable life is, it's a lie. But the letter gets even darker, doesn't it, when it comes to Georgiana?
It does. This is the part that just completely destroys Wickham's credibility. Darcy explains that Wickham targeted his sister Georgiana,
who was incredibly young at the time.
Very young, about 15 or 16. And she was shy, vulnerable, and most importantly, she had an inheritance of £30,000.
£30,000. That is a staggering amount of money for that time. That's life-changing wealth.
It's generational wealth. And Wickham tried to seduce her to get her to elope with him, purely to get his hands on that money, which Darcy was guarding.
So Darcy had to step in.
He did. He got to Ramsgate just in the nick of time and stopped the elopement just days before it was supposed to happen. He saved her from absolute ruin.
This isn't just about money anymore. This changes Wickham from his sort of charming rogue into something much more sinister.
Exactly. He becomes a predatory fortune hunter, willing to destroy a 15-year-old girl's life and reputation for cash.
It's a total inversion of the narrative she'd been told. Darcy's letter doesn't just clear his name. It proves Wickham is a profoundly dishonorable man.
And it explains all those little things that seemed off about Wickham, the things Elizabeth kind of chose to ignore.
Okay, so on the Wickham charge, Darcy is pretty much morally exonerated. But then we get to the second point, separating Jane and Bingley.
Right. And here, Darcy shifts his tone. He's not just defending himself, he's almost proud.
He admits it.
Oh, he fully admits it. He says he rejoiced in my success. He makes it clear his interference was deliberate, calculated, and, in his mind, for Bingley's own good.
So what was his rationale? Was it just pure snobbery, or do you think he had a good reason?
Well, he gives two reasons, and they're both kind of interlocked and rooted in his pride. First, he says he completely misread Jane.
How so?
He saw her composure of temper, her quiet, gentle nature, and he interpreted it as indifference. He just didn't think she cared that much about Bingley.
Wow. So because she was reserved, he assumed she felt nothing.
Exactly. It's a devastating look at how that society could misinterpret a quiet personality. And his second motive is where Elizabeth's accusation of pride really hits home.
The inferiority of her connections.
He points directly to the lack of decorum from Mrs. Bennet, the fact that her uncles are in trade. One's an attorney in Meryton, the other lives near Cheapside.
So he saw the Bennet family's chaos and bad manners as a genuine social risk for his friend.
That's the heart of it. His protection of his friend clashed directly with Elizabeth's belief that real affection should be enough. He confirms his own arrogance, but he also gives evidence for the family chaos he was reacting to.
Which brings us to chapter 36, and Elizabeth's agonizing, painful internal reckoning. I mean, this is the real pivot of the whole story.
It is. And at first, she's just consumed with anger. She rereads the letter, determined to find flaws to prove Darcy's unpardonable assurance. She wants him to be wrong.
But the facts start to sink in, don't they?
They do. The part about Georgiana is just too specific, too detailed, and she knows Colonel Fitzwilliam was there, so there's a potential witness. The outrage starts to give way to, a really uncomfortable uncertainty.
And that uncertainty leads to the biggest realization in the novel.
The realization that she had been completely blinded by her own vanity. She starts to actively rethink everything. She remembers Wickham avoiding Darcy, how readily she believed his story.
Because it confirmed what she already wanted to believe about the man who slighted her at the assembly.
Yes. She admits it to herself. She was willing to forgive Darcy's pride, but only if he hadn't mortified mine.
That one line is just... it's the psychological core of the whole book, I think.
It absolutely is. She realizes that her famous quickness of observation, the thing she prided herself on, was totally compromised. She judged Darcy on his manner and Wickham on his charm, and she got them both completely wrong.
It's a terrifying moment of self-awareness. Her biggest bias wasn't against Darcy. It was a positive bias toward her own judgment.
And then, as if on cue, she gets confirmation. She learns Wickham has already moved on from her to pursue Miss King, a girl who just inherited £10,000.
The nearest, most convenient fortune.
The mercenary move that proves Darcy's letter was true. It's a total collapse of her inner world. Wickham is a villain, and Darcy, though proud, is a man of honor and truth.
So now, as Elizabeth is processing all this, she returns home, and the story shifts from this intense internal drama back to the ongoing chaos at Longbourn.
Yes, she returns with this painful new self-awareness, and she sees her family's flaws with fresh eyes. And unfortunately, the very behavior that Darcy criticized is escalating.
Kitty and Lydia.
Still completely obsessed with the military officers who are about to relocate to Brighton for the summer.
And Lydia, the most reckless of them all, gets what she thinks is a golden ticket. An invitation from Mrs. Forster, the colonel's wife, to go with them.
Elizabeth sees this for what it is, a total disaster waiting to happen. She calls it the death warrant of all possibility of common sense for Lydia. She knows her sister's unguarded and imprudent manner will bring shame on all of them.
So she does the sensible thing. She begs her father not to let her go.
She does, but Mr. Bennet, who is supposed to be the head of the house, just waves it all away.
Why?
His coping mechanism is to detach, to find it all amusing. He dismisses Elizabeth's worries, saying Lydia will never be easy till she has exposed herself in some public place. He basically says that any man scared off by her silliness isn't worth worrying about.
So he just checks out. He decides dealing with his daughter's recklessness is too much trouble.
Exactly. It's a tragic, short-sighted mistake. In a society where reputation is everything, he's letting the family's future walk out the door. Lydia leaves in clamorous happiness, but their social standing is now hanging by a thread, all because of her father's negligence.
And this negligence is what leads to Elizabeth's final devastating reflection in chapter 42. She finally connects the dots.
She does. She understands now where all the disadvantages that Darcy scorned actually come from.
From her parents' marriage.
From the core defect of their marriage. Her father was captivated by her mother's beauty when she was young, but he quickly discovered her weak understanding and illiberal mind.
And all real affection and respect died.
Yes. And instead of trying to guide his wife or his family, Mr. Bennet just retreated into his library. He chose to be amused by his wife's foolishness rather than to manage it.
And that retreat created what the book calls a continual breach of conjugal obligation and decorum.
Which basically means their constant fighting, his making fun of her in public, the total lack of a united front. It all undermined the family's reputation and set a terrible example for the girls.
So Elizabeth realizes that the very disorder Darcy observed, the reason he broke up Jane and Bingley, was a direct result of her father's passive withdrawal.
That's the final, brutal realization. The family's external shame is rooted in this internal parental failure.
It's an incredible journey she goes on in these few chapters. From blind prejudice to this painful self-correction, all kicked off by a single letter.
And we've seen how Mr. Bennet chose amusement over actively protecting his family's honor. If reputation really is everything in this world, and the source of the family's shame is their own father's intellectual retreat, well, it raises a big question.
Which is,
what moral obligation did Mr. Bennet have to engage with that domestic world he looked down on? And maybe for us, how often do modern follies, social, political, whatever, result from a similar withdrawal of responsibility by those who could and should lead? Something to mull over as you reflect on the ultimate cost of just checking out.
That's chapters 35 through 42. Darcy's letter rewriting the past, Elizabeth gaining painful self-knowledge, and Lydia heading toward trouble in Brighton. In the next episode, we'll move into chapters 43 through 49, where a visit to Pemberley shows us a very different side of Darcy, and the news of Lydia's elopement shatters any calm the Bennets had left. Thanks for listening to Chapter by Chapter Classics. If this episode helped you follow the story, follow the show in your podcast app so you don't miss the next chapter. And if you're enjoying this series, please take a moment to rate the podcast or leave a short review. It really helps other readers and students find the show.